Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of this chamber. Many of us are familiar with the name Fannie Lou Hamer because she said those famous words, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." And she said that at the DNC convention, where, by the way, she was the first woman ever to be seated as a delegate at a National Party convention and the first African American since Reconstruction. Today, for Women's History Month, I want us to get a closer look at her life, because I believe that she represents the fire that fuels many who fight for the fundamental right to vote. Ms. Hamer's work for voting rights did not come early in her life. In fact, she was 44 years old when she went to a mass meeting of SNCC, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. For some of us, 44 seems awfully late in life to learn that you had a right to vote, but for her, it was not unusual. She grew up in America where legislators and other in power use a variety of both legal and extra-legal measures to make voting nearly impossible for black men and women. Now, she may not have known she had the right to vote until she was 44, but once she did, Fannie Lou began the vigorous fight for both her own right to vote as well as others. And her fight was unparalleled because I believe she had a fire in her belly. And why do I say that? It's because she said that registering to vote and voting is an act of becoming a first-class citizen. On August 31st in 1962, she boarded a bus with 17 others to register to vote. When they arrived, they were met by state troopers. They went into the registrar's office, and they were told that only 2 could register, but they had to take a literacy test. And so they went ahead, and 2 of them were only able to take that test and register. And on their way home, they were stopped by a state trooper because the state trooper said that their bus was in violation. And why was it in violation? Because it was too yellow. And when she returned home, the owner of the plantation where she was a sharecropper with her husband ordered her to leave, and she would not draw it, but she must also withdraw her name from the voter rolls. And in an interview, she recounted this, and she said that she was told by the plantation owner, if you do not go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. He then continued, then if you go down and withdraw, you still might have to leave, because we aren't ready for that in Mississippi. And she responded, I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. She had to leave that same night, but the bullying did not stop. Several days later, white supremacists sprayed 16 bullets into her home. Thankfully, she was unharmed. She said the only thing they could do was kill me. And then she later said, it seemed like they'd been trying to do that a little bit at every time I can remember. Fannie Lou never stopped. A year later, while traveling home from a voter's workshop, she and her companions were rounded up by police. They were beaten and interrogated. Her beatings lasted 4 days. She became physically disabled with blindness in one eye and permanent kidney damage. But that did not stop Fannie Lou Hamer. She was undeterred. Nevertheless, she persisted because she had that fire in the belly. She continued to speak out against the laws and methods used to keep back people from voting. She shared the story of her experience, including her brutal beating. In a televised speech at the 1964 National Convention, she called out the American hypocrisy, claiming to be a democracy while withholding voting rights from millions of citizens. The passionate speech, combined with the nationwide protests, led black activists and set in motion the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. But since that Voting Rights Act has been an essential tool to expose discriminatory voting practices, blocking voter suppression laws, and has helped voters of color access the box. But the past decade has seen 2 Supreme Court rulings that weakened the Voting Rights Act, even disseminating legal protections preventing states from implementing suppressive and discriminatory election laws. In the wake of those rulings, state legislators across the country including and tellingly those states of the South, continue back with voter suppression laws, except for Virginia. In 2020 and 2021, we passed laws to make voting more accessible and to eliminate the ill-conceived restrictions on the restoration of voting rights. Fannie Lou died in 1977. She was a nationally recognized civil rights activist who had that fire in the belly. She would no doubt be disappointed, but not surprised, to see protections of the Voting Rights Act rescinded and new efforts to limit access. Fannie Lou may not have known that she had the right to vote until she was 44, but once she did, she understood its power. This Women's History Month, may we model our courage and commitment of Fannie Lou Hamer to not only exercise our power to vote, but to maintain that certain, that empowering fire in the belly to press on for voting rights. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.